Hi Technical Comprehension. This video is for Monday, April 13th, which also starts week 13 of our semester. So we are really getting close to the end here. I know it's been tough these last several weeks, but I'm so proud of everyone sticking in and just kind of doing what we need to do to get finished. So again, this video is for Monday, April 13th, week 13. So as a reminder, due tonight for week 12 attendance. So week 12 attendance I am using to mark off based on your Chapter 9 submissions. So Chapter 9 text sheet and Chapter 9 vocabulary quiz. So if you get into the Chapter 9 folder, you have your Chapter 9 text sheet. It's the file right here, and then the Dropbox is right below it. And then the Chapter 9 vocabulary quiz is all in one spot. It has the Dropbox and the document right there. So again, I know some of you, you're working crazy hours, or you're taking care of extra family members, or it's just a stressful time. So if you submit things late, that's okay. I'm still taking them. I'm still grading them. Just turn them in. That's the big thing, is just turn them in so you can finish strong, and you only have a few weeks left. Just kind of keep your eyes on that we're almost done. So again, Chapter 9 text sheet, Chapter 9 vocabulary quiz are due tonight. You can get those in for week 12 attendance. So today's video is going to begin Chapter 10, which is awesome because it is our last chapter of the textbook. So that's super exciting. I know I'm excited just to get to this point, since this is such an awkward and way for me to teach personally, and I know I'm sure you're excited as well that we are wrapping things up. So Chapter 10 is kind of just like a culminating chapter. It's not very hard hitting, which is nice for our last chapter. So let's go ahead and get into our PowerPoint. So here's our PowerPoint. You can see the topic is study skills. So that's what it's not necessarily a very specific reading focused chapter. It's just kind of general, and so that's why this chapter doesn't take terribly long. In class, I would do a lot of exercises and practices with that. I'm just not going to do that with the way that I'm conveying it via online. But what this chapter covers is paraphrasing and summarizing, note-taking, test-taking, and metacognition. So in a way, things that you've already been introduced, exposed to, or kind of been practicing all semester, ideally. And this is just going to kind of review those things for you. So just as a review, when we say, or when anyone says paraphrasing, it means restating quotes or sentences to make them shorter and your own words. So you're taking out all of like the minute details and you're focusing on just the most important details. Maybe like the main idea, maybe just one or two major details depending on the length, but you're shortening it. So here's an example of paraphrasing. Due to the overwhelming popularity of weight loss products, the FDA has cracked down on pharmaceutical companies for producing products with dangerous side effects, such as fen-phen. So that's a fairly long sentence. A paraphrase example would be, the FDA has cracked down on companies producing weight loss products with dangerous side effects. Basically says what the first sentence says, just boiled down to the main points. Here's another example. To apply for the Edmonds Scholarship, candidates must show a minimum grade point average of 3.5 and must demonstrate a commitment to serving the needs of their community. Boiled down way of saying that, Edmonds Scholarship candidates must have a 3.5 GPA and show community service. So again, paraphrasing is when you take someone else's words or quote and you shorten it. Short and sweet in your own words. The reason we introduce this is because we talk about summarizing. So summarizing, initially on your final project, the way it was written, you were going to have to provide a summary of one of the articles you found, of your popular article. You're not doing that now, obviously, because we changed that around. You don't have to have a popular article any longer. But summarizing is a really important skill. You probably did this in high school. You might have had like weekly articles you had to find and summarize, or that was a pretty popular thing in a lot of classes. But summarizing is a brief description, has the main idea and the major points. You're using paraphrasing when you summarize. So paraphrasing is putting things into your own words, and that summary is taking, maybe a couple pages of text, and when you summarize it, you put it in your own words and it's more brief. here's what a summary depends upon. The length of the summary depends on the length of material you're summarizing. If you have a 5-page article and then a 15-page article, your summaries aren't going to be the same length because the original sources are different lengths. It's also going to depend on your purpose for summarizing. Are you summarizing because it's for your own personal review? Are you summarizing because you have to do a complete summary and turn it in? And then that kind of lends to the next one, the requirements of the assignment. So when you summarize, you need to be kind of thinking of these big, questions, who, what, where, when, why, how type of deal. So you're putting information in your own words. That's the whole point of a summary, is it's in your own words. It is not quoting the original source. You do not quote original source in a summary. You do not copy from the original source. It is all your own words, and you're kind of hitting those big points again, the who, what, where, when, why, how, in your own words. And something that I've always been confused on is I'll have a student with a 5-page original article and their summary is like 7 pages. So your summary should not be longer than your original. And again, it should not have direct quotes or direct wording. It should all be in your own words. Okay, so part of this chapter also talks about like study skills, in particular like metacognition, just being aware of your thinking processes. And we talk about this as we're going to go to the next topic of test taking. If you are metacognitively aware, you are thinking about your thinking. Meaning, let's say you're studying for a test and you're using flashcards. While you're using these flashcards, you could be thinking, is this helpful? Am I understanding this? Should I be using a different strategy? Do I understand what I'm learning? So you're just kind of always thinking about what is going on with your work. So that then leads to test taking. So in this chapter, it talks about test taking, and it just kind of really general things. If we were in class together, I would practice one of these exercises with you called progressive muscle relaxation, where you put your feet flat on the ground and you sit up real straight and you start at the tips of your toes and you curl them into fists. Hold it there real tight for 10 seconds and then release. And you work your way all the way up to your eyebrows, like all the muscles you can. And what you're doing is you're tightening and releasing, and it's supposed to help you kind of relieve some of that stress. Another thing is some deep breathing. Obviously, we breathe. That's a part of, we have to live. But often we don't breathe deeply enough. We don't take those mindful deep breaths. Visualizing success and positive self-talk are all parts of that test-taking process of using the anxiety that we feel. Some anxiety is helpful, but not to let it get overwhelming. And so if it gets overwhelming, using these strategies to help us manage that stress and anxiety. So when you are getting ready for a test, it doesn't just start, I have a test tomorrow, I should probably start preparing. No, it starts a little while before that. It starts like knowing when the test is. And then it starts in class. Every time you're in class, you should be taking notes or listening or whatever method is best for you to intake information. You should know when the test is and know what kind of test it's going to be, and then study a little bit every day so that you're laying the foundation over a series of maybe 3, 4, 5 days or more versus the morning of. So those are ways to be prepared kind of before the test. Everything you do in the classroom before the test, taking notes, being engaged, participating. And then again, this kind of maybe form a study group. Is it going to be multiple choice, fill in the blank? Because you should approach tests differently based on what format they are. And then some other study tips, take short breaks from studying. Try not to cram it all in, like hours. Every half hour or so, give yourself a break. Use the resources on campus. Go online, whatever you need, kind of use those resources to help you. So effective learning starts with knowing the material first. If the first time you learn the material, it doesn't make sense, it may not make sense to you when you go to study it on your own. So making sure that you understand the material in a way that makes sense to you, meaning, okay, the material is being presented, I'm a visual learner, how should I be working on understanding this information? And then make personal connections to it, make personal examples so that's relevant to you, so you have a little bit more motivation to understand and learn it. So here are some more kind of tips, day before, day of type deal. So day before, know where the test is, get a good night's sleep, make sure everything's ready to go, kind of things that you've heard about all your life when it comes to testing. Kind of like the day of, eat a good breakfast, leave with enough time. When you get into the room, take some breaths, maybe even go for a quick little walk if you get there early enough, because exercising kind of helps you release endorphins and helps you relax. So a brief little walk around the hall could help. And again, just making sure that you have some positive self-talk and focusing on what you're doing, not what others are doing. That's important. A lot of people will see someone bring their test up and think, oh my gosh, I'm not done yet. Why did they get done so quickly and I'm not done yet? It's really important to focus on yourself, not what others are doing. Because you have no idea whether that person sped through the test and knew nothing or they knew everything. You have no clue. So that's why you should focus on yourself. Some other strategies while you're at the test: read through all the questions very carefully. Make sure you pay attention to the instructions. Hopefully you remember our little directions activity we did at the beginning of the semester. Read all the directions. Know how much time you have. Don't spend so much time on just one question. Go to the questions that you know the answers to first, and then go back and revisit the ones that you may not know of. And never change an answer unless you know you're changing it from wrong to right. More often than not, when we change, we already have it right and we change it to wrong. So really make sure that you are changing it for a good reason. And then it talks a little bit more again about metacognition, just knowing what you're learning, why you're learning it, and the strategies that are going to help you learn as you go. So that's basically the summary of Chapter 10. So I'm going to go ahead and get into our textbook because we're going to start. I apologize, I didn't have it logged in and ready to go. We're going to start our Chapter 10 text sheet today. I already have it pulled up, but just to show you again, Chapter 10, right there, Chapter 10 text sheet. I have it ready to go down there. So in our book, I'm going to go to my table of contents, and I'm going to pull up Chapter 10 again. It's so bittersweet, right? Very last chapter. The focus is on technology, which again is one of these chapters where even if you're not going into IT, odds are at some point in your career, you're going to have to use computers, smartphones, tablets, something. You have to be aware of technology. There's not many careers or jobs out there anymore that doesn't use technology in some shape or form. So this applies not only to us in almost every profession, but also personally. Just being smart about technology and how we use it and the purposes for which we engage with technology. All right, so there's a little intro. There's our learning objectives, and the first few pages of this kind of goes through again, like summarizing and paraphrasing what that means and what that looks like whenever it's in, in these paragraphs. And there's practices in there if you want to practice them. I'm not going to necessarily, again, when I would have this chapter taught in class in person, I would give you like little mini examples that we would practice paraphrasing and summarizing. I'm just not going to do that right now, but you are more than welcome to kind of maybe, like, for instance, on page 424, there's a paragraph there. And listen, how appropriate is this paragraph? But if you want to read that paragraph and send me like a quick summary as practice, I will be more than happy to look at it and give you feedback and send it back to you. Also, here we go, it talks about some challenges with making sure that you are being prepared and note-taking in general, because it does give you some note-taking tips. So if you're struggling with note-taking tips, those are some other things that you can pay attention to. Pages 424 through 427, and then they start going into outlining. So I don't really focus a lot on this because a lot of students feel that outlining is more of a writing strategy, and I would agree to an extent. Outlining is really a writing strategy for most people. In fact, a lot of writing instructors or even effective speaking instructors require an outline before you can go to your full-fledged paper or speech, but it is also a potential reading strategy, and actually part A of our text sheet will focus on this. So how an outline works when you're reading is kind of you pick out your main idea, your major details, your minor details for each paragraph, and then you would kind of repeat it for the next paragraph. What's my main idea? What are my major details? Maybe there's 3 major details like this one and 1 minor. So that's one way to kind of break down the paragraph if you think that that could help you. And then from pages 430 through 433, it talks about test taking and metacognition again. I also want to bring up something called annotations or annotating. That's something else I usually talk about in this chapter. It's not necessarily in our textbook, but annotations are whenever you have notes in the margins. And so if I had my physical textbook right now and I wanted to take notes, I would write them right here in this white space. And that allows me to kind of pull out maybe key points, main ideas, names. It's not meant for lots of writing. Quick little things. And the reason I bring it up in this chapter is because, sometimes you may be expected to read a lengthier article. I know when I was working on my degrees, sometimes I would have to read a 20, 30, 40 plus page article. I'm not necessarily going to be able to do that in one sitting with my schedule and my time commitments. So I might one night read 10 pages. But as I read, I annotate on the sides. I pull out main ideas, main dates, names, concepts, definitions. And then the next night, instead of going, oh my gosh, I can't remember those 10 pages I read, I kind of flip through and my annotations help me. And then if I needed to summarize, those annotations help me build a summary. So it kind of all works together, which is nice. All right. So again, you can look through there up through page 433 if you kind of want some of your own practice on doing these. Also, you'll see practices 1 and 2 on pages 434 and 435 ask you to do some summaries and some outlining, like missing notes type thing. If you want to do them, send them to me for extra practice. I can give you feedback. But for our purpose, we're going to look at practice number 3 here, and this is going to be the basis for part A. We're going to do this a little differently. So I'm going to read the paragraph, and the point of part A is to create an outline based on these paragraphs. So first, the paragraphs read, drafters are people who prepare technical drawings and plans for many different types of products, big and small. Nearly all drafters today use CAD, computer-assisted design and drafting software, on computers. Drafters are given rough drawings showing the shapes and sizes of the object to be drawn. They use their knowledge and training to construct the final drawing on a computer. For this reason, drafters usually work in one specialty area. Aeronautical drafters are trained in preparing engineering drawings for aircraft and spacecraft. Another type of builder is the architectural drafter, who specializes in drawings of buildings or other structures. Another kind of drafter produces mechanical drawings for manufactured products such as cars or motorcycles. Electrical drafters design wiring and layout diagrams for equipment and buildings. Electronic drafters draw wiring diagrams for the circuit boards used in electronic devices such as computers or entertainment systems. And civil drafters draw plans and maps for the construction of highways, bridges, pipelines, and sewage systems. Okay, so text sheet part A wants us to create an outline, and it kind of starts, it goes from 436 to 437. It gets us started. What I did, and I already uploaded this on your text sheet, is I already did the outline. Just because I feel like that was kind of a lot for you to do or for like us to walk through without being in person. So I just kind of filled the outline in and already have it uploaded in the text sheet. So I kind of did a little of the work for you, but I just want to kind of show you how it worked. So Roman numeral 1 is basically the first paragraph. It just introduces what drafters are and a couple things. I could have gone into more detail with these. So like say I wanted to really go into detail and tell you what CAD means. I could have, computer assisted and da-da-da-da-da. I could have gone into more detail. And the same thing with the specialty in one area. I may have said something along the lines of, they use their training and knowledge for this. And then this is all the second paragraph. Each of the Roman numerals here represent one of the kinds of specialty areas, and then one of the A for each one kind of just tells you about what that specialty area is. Now, if I didn't like all this text, I could have definitely said, like down here, for example, draw plans and maps for construction of, and I could have like gone into multiple things. And I could have had that be like a minor detail. The point is here with outlines, you can make them formal, kind of like this, or you can make them informal, where it's just like bullet points, if that's a strategy that works. Like I said, not everyone likes to use outlining as a reading strategy. They kind of reserve it for writing, but this just really kind of breaks down the text if it's helpful. So that is part A of your text sheet. I kind of did it for you already. It's something I normally do on the board in class anyway, and have you kind of practice going along creating it with me. I just thought it'd be easier for all of us to just have it in there ready to go. And then actually we're going to, while we're on the text sheet, we're going to jump down to part E. So we're going to jump down to part E, and we are going to do most of this part together. I'm actually going to do the first four questions with you. You are going to do part 5, and we are going to do practice number 1 together. It's about an engineer, so I'm going to kind of flip in my hard copy text, but also show you in the electronic text that it is on page 465. So here's the paragraph, and this is part E. So I'm going to read the paragraph. Being an engineer doesn't have to be all work. Kent Seiko gets plenty of excitement and thrills as a roller coaster designer. After graduating from the University of Utah, Seiko took a job as a drafter at Aerodynamics, one of the largest designers and manufacturers of amusement rides. During his years of employment at Aero, Seiko learned more about how to design thrill rides when he began with the company 15 years ago. The company was designing roller coasters that were over 60 meters tall. Now the company is designing coasters over 90 meters tall. As a designer, Seiko must create a ride that is exciting while still maintaining safety and operating within a budget. Numerous other team members help with the layout, structural support, design, mechanics, electronics, and construction of the coaster. The most exciting part of his job is when he gets to ride the coaster for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to flip back to my text sheet, and I'm going to use my hard copy textbook to kind of help with the question. So question number 1 says Kent Seiko works as a, so he's basically a roller coaster designer. And I'm going to put his name, since it's not there. That's who we're talking about. Oops, let me spell it right. That helps. It's still going to come up. So he works as a roller coaster designer. Question 2 says he began 15 years ago designing coasters that were, says like 60 meters tall, but now designs coasters over 90 meters tall. Question 3 says he must create a ride that is blank while still maintaining blank and blank. So he has to create a ride that is exciting while still maintaining safety and operating, in a budget. Again, I'm using my hard copy textbook to get these questions, but they are in your electronic text on page 465. And then question number 4, the most exciting part of his job is when he gets to test the coasters, which means he gets to ride them. Now, I helped fill in the blanks, so to speak, right here. Your job, number 5, what you are doing on your own, is summarizing that paragraph. So you are practicing the skill from this chapter. So if you need to like delete all those lines, that's okay. And you can just type your summary there. Now, I will say, when you do your summary, make sure his name is a part of it because it is about him. And then just look back at page 465 and look at that paragraph again and kind of pull out, use those notes, use the blanks that I helped you fill in, and pull out a summary, pull out the main parts. Now, this is only a paragraph long, so your summary should be like 2 sentences maybe, no more than 3 sentences, because you always base your length of your summary on the original document, the original text. And because it's only a paragraph, your summary should only be like 2, no more than 3 sentences. But make sure his name is part of that summary, and then use the rest of the notes to help fill in your summary. So that's what you're doing for part E. Okay. All right. Now we are going to turn our attention to parts B and C. We are going to get the vocabulary and talk about the readings, and that'll kind of start to wrap up for the day, for the video. Okay. So if you need to pause the video and kind of do that summary while that paragraph is fresh in your mind, I would recommend maybe doing that, just so that you don't have to go back and do it later. So once you have paused and come back to that, we are going to go, and I'm going to get the vocabulary from our first reading, titled Bionic Soldiers. Bionic Soldiers is where I am looking. I'm going to pull up the study guide that's already loaded into Blackboard for you, but I'm going to go over these words. All right, I'm reading from page 440. It says, after Nadia lost her leg in a car accident, she soon learned to walk normally with a prosthetic leg. So the word prosthetic means artificial. It's an artificial limb, maybe an artificial arm or leg. So that's what they mean when they mean prosthetic, artificial, fake. Number 3, the birth of the Ortiz's 4th child necessitated an additional part-time job for the husband to supplement his income. It's kind of right in the word, if you can hear it. Necessitated means make necessary, it needs to be done. Something was forced to happen, like he's having more kids, he has to get another job. It was forced to happen. It was necessary. Number 4, strangely, even though many people survive an amputation, for a long while they can still feel the missing limb. So an amputation is just that removal of a limb. So that surgery that removes a limb for whatever reason, an injury, disease, whatever that might be. Number 6, when a sheet of plastic is heated, it becomes so pliable that it can be molded into different shapes. So the word pliable is like bendable, flexible. We as people can be bendable, pliable, like gymnasts, for instance. Our minds can also be pliable, flexible. We can change our mind. We can change our opinions. Number 7, the prosthetic leg must be fitted over the residual limb until it fits comfortably and snugly. The word residual, we've kind of talked about this already. Residual, residue, it's like what still remains, the remaining part, whatever's left over. And then number 8, electrical impulses in the brain signal the muscles to move. Impulses in this case mean a jolt of electrical current. Those are the short surges in electrical energy that kind of they're firing in our brain is what that impulses means. All right, as you read the article, you'll see the word resistance in paragraph 9. It means forces pushing up against each other. So it's literally maybe when you walk, your leg is hitting the ground and it's resisting. That's you push off when you walk. Or it could be two people that have resistance because they don't agree, and so forces pushing against each other. You'll also see the word armory in paragraph 11, where military equipment is stored. So maybe weapons or armor, whatever the case is. It's a place, an actual building where equipment is stored. Then in paragraph 10, you'll see the word artificial, which is just kind of another way of saying that fake. We kind of talked about this up here. Artificial legs. Artificial means fake. It's not natural. Humans have made it. Artificial sweetener, for instance, that's not natural. Humans have manufactured that. And then finally, the word accustomed in paragraph 4, to be familiar with. If you're accustomed to something, you're familiar with it, you're getting used to it. So that's the vocabulary for chapter 10, the first set of vocabulary for chapter 10. And so again, I will encourage you to go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to be reading Bionic Soldiers, and it's going to talk about some soldiers who have amputations, and because of obviously being in combat, and how there's different options for them and what that might look like, or how that comes about. So again, I'll encourage you to pause the video, and then we'll come back together to answer a few of these questions. Okay, hopefully you've paused and read. We're going to answer question 2, but we're actually going to get to question 1 first. But question 2 will be what is written down on your text sheet. Question 1 says, what's the topic of this article? Well, hopefully you picked up on the fact that it's Bionic Soldiers, because that is the title of the article. But not only that, they're talking about soldiers, bionic meaning like that robotic part. So that's our topic. So now, question 2, again, that you are writing this on your text sheet. Question 2, the thesis is essentially what it's asking of the entire article. And we know we're talking about soldiers. Now, George Perez was one of the soldiers, but it wasn't all about him. Again, it wasn't all about Perez, so that throws out A and D. And yeah, B, they are talking about that, but C is our best option there. New technology has improved the design and function of prosthetic limbs for soldier amputees. So they didn't necessarily use the phrase bionic soldiers, but that's who they were talking about here, is those who have lost limbs. So C is our best thesis statement. I'm going to do a couple more with you that kind of combine some of the topics we've been talking about. So if we look at number 6, what's the overall pattern of organization for this article? This whole article is relying on cause and effect. You know, there was a bomb, the soldier got hurt. They lost an arm, they needed a prosthetic. So lots of cause and effect here. Number 7 wants to know the pattern. Amputees who have lost arms are fitted with 3 different arms, a computer-programmed myoelectric arm, comma, a body-powered arm, comma, and a cosmetic arm. I said the commas very audibly because they are listing examples of the different types of artificial options. Number 8 wants us again to kind of do the same thing. The prosthetist creates a mold for the socket in about 20 minutes. Next, the sheet of plastic is heated until it is pliable, and then it is formed over the foam mold. Hopefully you can tell there they are walking us through a process of how to create this artificial limb. Number 9, what can we conclude from the article? What can we conclude? If you look at the options, we could probably safely conclude that if war continues, we are probably going to need some more prosthetic limbs for our soldiers. And according to the article, some of the amputees have regained their strength so they could re-enlist. Isn't that crazy? Some people are so dedicated that they lose a limb or 2 and they still want to be part of that military. That's really dedication. All right, so then we are going to flip over a couple pages to 448. And you are going to answer on the text sheet question number 2. Here's our short answer. Question number 2. If new technology had not provided prosthetic limbs that could function almost as well as real ones, how would having an amputation be different? So for this one, you're thinking about, okay, if they didn't have access or the technological ability to give them these cool Bluetooth and functional arms, how could losing an arm or a leg be different? Could it be more painful? Could it be less helpful? Could it be more challenging? So that's what you're answering in question number 2 there on text sheet part B. Okay, so again, I'm going to maybe if you pause and need to answer that question, and we're going to go ahead and look at our next article and talk about our vocabulary from here. So I'm going to be on page 449. I'm going to continue our vocabulary. I'm going to scroll down and go over these words here. I'm going to go to number 1, again on page 449. I was concerned about the confidentiality of sharing my personal information with my coworker, Alicia. So confidentiality that you're going to see in paragraph 1, it's like that protecting of that information. It is the kind of like that secret. If something's confidential, it's secret. It's protected. You don't want anyone else to know that information. Number 4, skipping to number 4, for her research paper, Belinda compiled a list of resources with the information she needed. When you compile things, you're gathering them together, or you're putting them together or assembling them. Maybe you have to compile sources. You have to get them all together. You have to gather them. Number 5, one company accused its competitors of espionage after its secret formula was stolen. Espionage is just like spying. Kind of hear that sometimes in maybe spy thrillers. Espionage means spying. Number 6, because of stiff competition, the company decided not to implement the new policy to charge customers a transaction fee. When something is implemented, it's put into use. It's put into effect. I'm going to implement, we implemented online learning after this COVID-19. We have put into effect. We've put into use. Number 7, during World War II, the Nazis created a machine that was capable of encoding secret messages, but the British invented a machine to decrypt their messages. So when we encode, we are putting it into code. Kind of sounds like it. Encode. Put it in a code. We're translating information into a protected format. So we're putting it in a way that hopefully no one else can read it in some kind of code. Number 8, the buyer asked an antique expert to authenticate the artist of the painting by examining the work closely. If you are trying to authenticate something, you're trying to prove it to be valid or true. It's like, is this genuine? Is this what it is supposed to be? Number 9, and this is going to be very kind of similar. It says, when I applied for a passport, my signature had to be verified by a notary. If we are verifying something, we're proving it to be true again. So authenticate, again, is more, let me kind of, to prove to be genuine. Let's put it that way. And that way then verified to prove to be true. So if we're authenticating something, let's say you buy a purse and it's a knockoff. If you wanted to authenticate whether it was real or not, you'd be trying to prove it's genuine. Verify is to prove to be true, like, did what you say, is that true? Are you saying this? Is this a real statement? How can you verify it? And then number 10 is consumers. We must be very vigilant about how we conduct our online business. If we are vigilant, the textbook gives us a couple answers. I like to kind of mesh these together. When we're being vigilant, we are being very watchful. We're also being kind of responsible with our information. We're being careful. If we're vigilant, we know what we're doing. We're mindful of what's going on. In the article itself, you will see, I think we've only not talked about 2 words. You will see the word compromised in paragraph 3, means to make vulnerable. For instance, you might hear this word all the time right now. The elderly and those with underlying health issues are more likely to be compromised. They're more likely to be vulnerable, open, susceptible to. In this case, they're talking about like information, but it works in a similar way. And then you also see e-commerce in paragraph 1. In email, e-commerce, eBay stands for electronic. So e-commerce is the buying and selling of products or services online. All right, so that is the vocabulary for chapter 10. That's your last set of vocabulary. I don't know if that's exciting or what. I haven't put the quiz on there yet, but just kind of looking ahead, the quiz for chapter 10 will be due Monday, April 20th. So I haven't put the quiz uploaded yet. I will be uploading that on Wednesday's video, but that's coming due on Monday, April 20th. All right. So again, I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and pause the video and you're going to read your article, Attack of the Cyber Thieves, which it might not be bad for you to read anyway because it talks about keeping your information safe when you're online, which a lot of everything has been moved online right now. So just kind of for those purposes. So again, I'll encourage you to pause it, read it, and come back. All right, hopefully you've paused and read. We are going to answer a few questions, but you'll see in part C, we are not writing anything down until number 9. So, number 1, what's the topic of the article? Who or what is this all about? It boils down to internet security. They want to make sure that we're secure when we are online. So then question 2 wants us to know or ask, what is the central point of the entire article? What's the thesis? So if you look at your options, it really does kind of boil down to B. C is kind of a detail. A is an opinion. D is a detail. So B really does nicely summarize our, however many paragraphs that was, that 10 paragraphs. Knowing how cyber thieves attack can help you become more vigilant about how you use your personal and financial information online. So it's talking about being safe online. Okay. I don't know why this constantly does that. All right. From reading the article, number 4, we can conclude that what? What can we conclude? One of the best conclusions, safest conclusions, is that it is possible to keep your computer's information safe from hackers. That's probably the best inference, the best conclusion we can make there. I'm going to skip over to number 7. Again, we haven't written anything down yet on our text sheet. We're just practicing some of these concepts. Number 7 wants to look at this and see if it's fact, opinion, or a little bit of both. The most effective method of ensuring that sensitive computer stored information cannot be accessed or altered by unauthorized parties is encryption, the process of encoding data so that only individuals or computers armed with the secret code or key can decode it. So this is a little bit of both, fact and opinion. This is an opinion, the most effective. Someone else may not think it's the most effective, but down here is the fact that defines what encryption means. Number 8, what do you think the purpose of this article was? hopefully you could tell that they are informing us about internet security. It's not that they're trying to persuade us not to use it or convince us that it's safe. Just make sure we know what it is. All right, number 9. Here's what you are doing. So for number 9, it wants you to go back to paragraph 6. Paragraph 6. And paragraph 6 is on page 452. It's the paragraph, how do cookies work? So it's a little lengthier, so I'll recommend that you go back into your text and read it, or even pause the video right here on the screen so you can read it. And then when you go back to page 455, it's asking you in number 9, which one is the best summary? So which one of those is the best summary of that paragraph? So kind of look at your paragraph 6 and look at the 4 options. Which one does the best job of bringing together the main points of that? And you're going to put that in part C, number 9, because you're really just choosing A, B, C, or D there. All right, and then when you're done there, you're going to jump on over to page 457, and you are answering question number 4. Question number 4 wants to know, in your opinion, so again, you cannot be wrong here unless you don't support your answer. So make sure you support. What are the best ways to protect your confidential information online and when doing business in person? There are 2 parts, online and when doing business. So the best way to protect information is because. So make sure you support your opinion. All right. So today, as a review in today's video, we talked about summarizing, paraphrasing, note-taking, metacognition, outlining, and a little bit of annotating. Part A was already completed for you, so just kind of review. If outlining is a strategy you think is helpful, just pay attention to those sections in this particular part of the text sheet. We went through parts B and C of the readings and retrieved the vocabulary from them. So you should have all of your vocabulary. Again, I will put the quiz on there. The quiz for chapter 10 will not be due until Monday, April 20th. And we did part E together. So we did part E, questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. You are doing your own summary. I kind of helped fill in the blanks. You are doing your own summary there at the bottom. So make sure that you summarize there. Your text sheet, we will do part D together on my Wednesday's video, but your text sheet, just kind of looking ahead, will also be due Monday, April 20th. So that is chapter 10, and that almost finishes up our last text sheet. The last thing I want to talk to you about in today's video is your mastery skills reminder. Everyone, your mastery skills are due next week, April 24th. That is crazy. It's coming up so quickly. So April 24th, next Friday, if you look in your mastery skills, I now have all of the rest of the skills and their videos open. I just opened up combined skills. So all of the rest of those are open. Please watch the videos, complete the skills. They are due April 24th. All 9 skills have to be completed with an average of 80% or higher. Okay, hope everyone is doing well. I will talk to you soon.